wanted to welcome you to a whole new year, and we're going to show you today how to make an authentic paella from Spain. Paella, for the most part, is something that's well known in Valencia, which is a place I've been able to go in the past, where I worked for a company that was based there. And it's a wonderful dish, especially I think to make it holiday time. I think of it because if we're having friends and family over, it serves a lot of different people, and it serves a lot of different tastes because you can put different meats in it, different seafoods. In Spain, when you're closer to the coast, you're more likely to find seafood paella, which is we'll have shrimp and squid and all the various seafoods that they can get there. As you move inland, oftentimes you'll find that things move more to the chicken end of the spectrum. And so what we're going to do today is a chicken stock based paella that also has some seafood in it as well for those people that enjoy seafood. So I hope that you'll enjoy making this along with me. So we have quite a few ingredients going into this. One of the most important things is a paella pan. These are shallow, wide, made of metal so that they can be used on the stovetop and then go into the oven. If you look online at some of the other recipes that you'll see, a lot of times you'll see sort of stovetop versions of paella. Those are not authentic. They won't come out right for you because when you do it in the pan the right way in the oven, it'll be nice and moist on top, the rice, but when you get down into it, you'll see the bottom is actually a little crispy and a little brown, and that's how you know it's authentic paella. So you should grab one of these paella pans if you like to try and make this. Also, to go with this, we're going to need some vegetables. So I have here about a cup of peas. If you have fresh peas, that's great. These are frozen. I also have a whole medium purple onion that's been chopped up, along with half of fennel bowl. Fennel is a sort of licorice tasting vegetable that gives things very unique flavor. I also have a half each of yellow, orange, and red pepper that I've cut into about 1-inch pieces. I have 5 cloves of garlic minced, and I have about 5 sprigs of fresh thyme that I've taken off the stem and prepared to go into the dish. Also, to finish the dish, we have some special black olives here. Those are oil cured black olives, and perhaps one of the most important finishing touches here is saffron. Beautiful stuff. You're going to use about 1.5 teaspoons of this over the top of the dish as we're making it, and that is a very, very important ingredient. So for seafood and meats, I have a ½ pound of chorizo that's been chopped into coins. We're going to start by browning this in the pan and get some grease out of that to cook the rest of the dish. I also have here chicken thighs with skin on. Important to probably have a little bit of skin on because that chicken fat's going to also get out into the pan and help flavor the rest of the dish. Also for seafood, I have here about a ½ pound of codfish, which is local in New England waters. You also could substitute monkfish if you would prefer. I also have 8 large shrimp, which I'm going to add to the dish for those shrimp lovers. And I've already cooked in about a cup of boiling water. I've cooked some clams and let them go ahead and open. I'll add those to the top of the dish at the very end. You also can use manila clams. You can find manila clams. These are actually little necks. Those come from New England waters as well. And then for liquid, we're going to need a cup of dry white wine. I prefer a good French Chardonnay. This is a non-oaked Chardonnay from Louis Jadot. So very, very good, full-bodied, dry wine that'll give this dish great flavor. And you're also going to need some Pernod. This is one of the things that also will make it very authentic in terms of flavor. If you don't find Pernod, you also can substitute pastis, which is made in Marseille, France. This is another one of those licorice-flavored liqueurs. So that will go into the dish as well. And the final piece of the puzzle is chicken stock. The recipe is very much like making a risotto, in that we're using a rice that cooks in broth and will soak up that broth with time, is the idea behind it. Probably want to have about a cup reserved on the side to check during the cooking process to make sure that you didn't run out of liquid as it's cooking in the oven. But you could certainly start with something that was pre-made. But because this dish is really, the flavoring in it is really comes down to the broth, and lots of good dishes start with good broth. I've made some homemade broth. So as I said, the broth is really central to this, and that's why I took the time to make a homemade broth. So what I did here, and I'll give you the recipe, is I have taken a whole chicken and the parts of it, cut it up. I've taken the breast off and left that aside, but put everything else into the pot with some celery and some carrots and some herbs. I have lots of different types of herbs in there, some garlic and salt and pepper, and then peppercorn and all sorts of other things. I will give you the recipe for this if you feel like going the extra mile. You also could probably try taking a stock that you buy in the store and maybe adding some flavor to it before you use it in the recipe to give it a little bit more depth or dimension to the flavor. But I guarantee you, starting with good broth is going to really make this dish extra special. Alright, first step is we want to brown our chorizo sausage on both sides for about 5 minutes, and that's going to get some of the grease and oil out of this and bring some of the flavor into the pan. And what you want to try and do is get the pieces a little browned. Alright, so you'll see I have my pieces of chorizo nicely browned. I'm going to go ahead and take those out to a plate with a paper towel on it. And then we're going to do the same browning exercise with our chicken. You see we got some nice grease in there. I also put a little olive oil in there to help get that sausage cooked and brown. And now I'm going to give a little more olive oil back. This is the Casas de Hualdo. This is the Reserve de Famille, and this is a very special olive oil that seems keeping for such a special dish. And so 2 more tablespoons in there, and we're going to add back the chicken, skin side down, and brown all of that chicken for our recipe. Alright, you can see our chicken is nicely browned on both sides, so I'm going to go ahead and remove that from our pan. Now you don't have to fully cook the chicken because it's going in the oven for 20 minutes in heat. So now what we want to do is you want to let the pan cool down just slightly. So I'm going to set the temperature to low. And now we introduce another important part of the piece of the puzzle is the Paella Rice, traditional. This is from Matiz, a well-known company from Spain that makes the traditional rice, and we're going to use a pound. So about half of this package is what I need for one recipe. And I'm going to go ahead and dump that in here. And what we want to do is we want to stir this around in that. And for about 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to stir it in this oil. And we want the rice to get a little translucent. And what we're doing is we're kind of preparing it to open up and receive the flavors of the broth and other things that we're going to put in here in a minute. So just stirring that around. You see, starting to get a little translucent on top. We want to go ahead and get that through all the way through all of the rice. A couple minutes, it's translucent now, and now we can add our vegetables into the pan. So I have my red onion, I have my fennel, I have my garlic, I have my various colored peppers, and we're going to go ahead and stir that around. We're also going to add now about a half a teaspoon of red pepper flakes. I'm going to use my special blend from the Flatiron Pepper Company. And this is a blend of lots of spicy peppers, but only need a half a teaspoon, so not a lot, just a little over the top. Give it a little pepper flavor. And you can hear it sizzling a little bit, so we're just going to stir that, incorporate it all for a few minutes. Alright, this has been cooking for a few minutes. We've allowed some of those flavors to release, and now I'm going to add my thyme and sort of sprinkle all over the rice dish. That's chopped fresh thyme. I've taken the main stem out. And then we're going to add to that the 1 cup of white wine. And our 5 cups of stock. And you'll see the wine's deglazed in the bottom of that pan. All that nice brown is coming up into the dish now. And you want to put enough stock in here so that all the rice and everything in here is covered by probably about a 1/2 inch of liquid covering it. And save just a little bit to add during the cooking process in case it needs it, but you see how that's covering nicely. Now this would be a good time to taste and make sure your seasoning, salt and pepper is okay. Which I think it's pretty good. And so we're just gonna let that cook. Now we want to bring this whole bit up to a boil, so I'm going to increase the heat again to about medium high. And I'm also going to add now our important ingredient, saffron. So about 1.5 teaspoons of saffron in here. The beautiful color of that. That's going to also give the dish some color, some signature color as well. And then we're also going to add our Pernod or pastis. Again, I said about 1.5 teaspoons over the top is what you're looking for. It's pretty tasty stuff, pretty powerful stuff. So it adds a lot of flavor pretty easily. So that's about 1.5 teaspoons there. All right, so you'll see that our dish is at a boiling point again. So I'm going to go ahead and place my chicken on top, and also add back my chorizo as well. I'm going to take the time to sort of evenly disperse it so it looks pretty coming out of the oven, as this is something you really could just bring right to the table and then serve from the table if you would like. And our chorizo sausage gets sprinkled over there as well. And we have, this whole thing is now going to go into the oven, 350 degrees, 20 minutes, and we should have a beautiful dinner waiting for us to come out. Now when it comes out of the oven, what we're going to do is we're going to tint it. I'm going to go ahead and add the seafood in, which hasn't been cooked yet, you might recall. And the steam from the dish is actually going to cook the fish just right, and we'll be ready to go. So into the oven we go. Add our olives into here. We're going to give all this a stir. I'm going to sprinkle these sort of evenly over the top. And we're also going to take our 1 cup of peas and put that in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to probably pull these chicken pieces off and give all the rice a sort of a stir so that we can get all these beans incorporated into there. And we also want to lay the monkfish over the top right now of this dish. And we're going to tint this with tin foil, and the heat from the dish underneath is going to help sort of steam the fish, gently cook it. And same with the shrimp. We're going to lay the shrimp over the top. And you may recall that I made clams earlier. I boiled them in water for about 1 minute until they opened. If they don't open, be sure and throw them out. That means they're probably not alive, not good. So, but otherwise they should open right up for you. There's all that. Finished with the clams. And tin foil the whole thing. And we're going to let it sit for about 5-10 minutes. And then it'll be ready for us to serve and eat. Alright, here we have the beautiful finished product. I'm going to go ahead and lift out into this plate. So we have some rice. Let me see how that's nicely cooked all the way through. And some chicken and some sausage and some peas. And lots of good stuff in here. You want to make sure you get a little bit of everything for your guest. There's a piece of shrimp. Now the shrimp that I have in this dish were pretty large, and they didn't seem like the foil cooked them entirely, so I actually put it back in the oven for another couple of minutes with the shrimp on top just to make sure that they got cooked off. You can push on them to really know for sure if they're finished. And there we have a beautiful piece of food. Clam on top. There you have it. Paella, authentic.